Well, hello. It's been a while, hasn't it? I'm 4 months late to this, but Happy New Year's to all of you. And for last year, Happy Holidays as well. It's been a while since I've uploaded to my beautiful little channel here. I can see by my subscriber count, a few people got tired of waiting for me to come back, but hopefully they can come back. If not, hopefully they got another source for women's football, the news and results, which is still good because at the end of the day we're just trying to support this nice little slice of the game, of the beautiful game, but obviously on the women's side. And it's been a while. A lot's been happening in my personal life that just took away so much of my time that I was unable to sit down and record on results happening in the WSL and the Champions League, of course, which are the main two leagues that I do focus on noticeably. And then every now and again I just throw in a random opinion piece. Not that I'm a professional editor of any kind, but that's enough rambling on my end. This is me saying I'm back officially. The timing, how nice is it that I'm coming back with the season pretty much about to come to a close, with the usual suspects, well, for the most part at least, coming through to claim the usual top prizes for their respective leagues. Of course, that would mean Barcelona winning Liga F, Lyon winning Division 1. Funny enough, in the WSL, that's not what's happening. Manchester City, shockingly enough, are pretty much champions elect at this point. You know, something mesmerizing has to take place for Manchester City to not get their hands on the WSL title with just 3 games to go, which is looking very unlikely. I mean, they've got a 9-point lead on top of Chelsea, plus a superior goal difference in any case. So virtually, even if they were to throw away their last 3 games of the league season at least, they're pretty much dead set to win this thing, unless, shockingly, Arsenal decide to also go unbeaten in their remaining 5 WSL fixtures, and then somehow also prop up their goal difference in the meantime. You know, but unfortunately this is not reality. My beloved Arsenal aren't gonna manage to do that, not because they're not capable, but simply because Man City are just too far gone at this point. So, you know, shoulda, coulda, woulda, but that's besides the point. This video is just kind of me rambling, as you can see by this little cold open of an introduction. By the way, welcome back to Mithma Pathion. YouTube's, I'm not so sure if I can call it premiere, given how far I've gone, but one of the best sources on YouTube, I'd like to think. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. Who cares anyway? It's good to always back yourself up where possible and when possible. But anyway, one of YouTube's best sources for all things women's football. And in this video, I just wanted to just basically talk to you, whoever ends up listening to this, the 20 of you or the hundreds of you who listen to it, about the general state of women's football. Because although I've been unable to sit down and record, I've been doing my very best to keep up with everything that's happening with women's football on and off the pitch. And there have been some surprises on the pitch. I mean, first and foremost, shout out London City Lionesses, but for kind of different reasons. That's one example that comes to mind immediately, at least within the confines of English football. In other leagues, I don't think there's been too much of a surprise in terms of things that are happening, whether you're in Spain or you're in Germany, etc., etc. There's just nothing too shocking taking place, at least in my view, which is basically self-explanatory about the state of women's football in a sense. But enough rambling, because I feel like I'm rambling a little bit. Back to the main issue, and oddly enough, I mentioned the country before, but we're going to start in Germany because I think this is like the most contemporary place to start with regards to the current state of women's football. And based on the title of this video, which I'm just going to caption around Union Berlin, and of course the appointment of Louise Eta, who is currently serving as the interim head coach of Union Berlin, of course the men's team in particular, until the end of the season. This is of course following Union Berlin sacking their previous manager, Stefan Baumgart, after quite admittedly a poor run of form that left them with no choice. The news of her appointment obviously sent shockwaves throughout the entire footballing world for obvious reasons, because of course this is the first time a woman has taken up the quote-unquote managerial hot seat within the confines of men's football, at least top flight men's football, because of course if you follow football in general and not just like the big leagues and whatnot, you will know that the distinction of actually becoming the first ever female to take up the managerial hot seat in either like a limited or a permanent capacity obviously goes to Hannah Dingley, who, I hope that's how you pronounce her name, Dingley, because part of me is telling me Dingley, but I think Dingley sounds more apropos. Anyway, Hannah Dingley, that's what I'm going to go for. She of course was the first woman to step up to the hot seat, at least on a temporary basis, as she was caretaker manager of Forest Green Rovers in England. So she's, I think to an extent, she gets the distinction of being the first ever woman to ever do something like that, which is really good in my view. It's really awesome. But of course the headlines will always go to Louise Eta, because of course Union Berlin are one of the most recent big teams in the Bundesliga. I think it's fair to say most recent, because when you look at their rise and just how far they've come as an institution, I think you can say they've done well for themselves. Obviously in recent seasons it hasn't been the best, but they're basically one of the stalwarts of the Bundesliga, at least this current iteration of the Bundesliga. So it says a lot, at least in my view. So anyway, I'm sure you saw the news, regardless of where you are on social media, that again she's the current head coach of the men's team of Union Berlin. And the reason why I think it's very pertinent to speak about this with reference to the state of women's football is particularly because when you look at the way the news was received and transmitted across the world, I think one thing that really stood out to me like a sore thumb was just how quick all the notorious big football related pages were quick to aggregate the news. Of course, you had Fabrizio Romano tweeting about it, and these other faceless accounts and pages tweeting about it, of course, with it's like Touchline X, etc., etc. And on the surface, it does seem like it was very nice for everybody to acknowledge the historic moment, because it is a very historic moment and nothing can or will ever take away from the occasion and the spectacle of such a decision. For me, what didn't sit well with me was just how quick everybody was trying to just be at the front of the queue to get the usual clicks and whatnot. And whilst this is my old man yelling at the clouds moment, it just, for me personally, didn't sit right with me, because a lot of people were spreading misinformation in the sense that they were saying that, oh, this is the first time it's ever happened, blah, 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 within top flight football, which, believe it or not, is not actually true. You know, they said that it was the first time that a woman has taken up the hot seat, the managerial hot seat in any capacity, temporary or permanent, ever in the history of men's football. And, you know, for me, I was just like, no, that's a lie, you know. Just 3 years ago, the same woman, Louise Eta, she did that again for Union Berlin, you know. It was not under the same circumstances of a coach being fired, but rather the coach at the time, Marco Groth, he was suspended for one of the games, and Union elected to have her be in the dugout for that game. Memory doesn't really do me justice as to which game that was. Probably should have, you know, Googled it, but it's one of those things. I'm sure maybe I may have even gotten the names mixed up, but yeah, feel free to screw me in the comments for that. I'll do a little bit better next time to do my research before I start, you know, virtue signaling and gatekeeping like I am right now, as at least some of you may think I am. But I think this entire situation in general around Marie-Louise Eta is that obviously she's been subjected to a lot of sexist abuse, which is expected, but it's a shame that it's expected. It's a shame that it's happening in any case. Of course, the first stint in the dugout for this latest reign that she has, that's more of like more permanent in a sense in comparison to the first reign that she had in 2023. Obviously came in a 2-0 loss to relegation threatened Wolfsburg. So obviously, again, the aggregators were having a field day, you know, making a mockery of her and whatnot. And in my own personal view, I think it's just a horrible thing to see take place. And I really felt sorry for her in that moment, because I'm sure in her mind, part of her was just like, I'm probably going to get cooked. And I really hope that even if that assumption of mine is wrong, I hope that the support system that she has from now to the end of the season is so strong that these kinds of things don't even fall under a radar or even enter her mental space. Because of course people are already starting to laugh at her and, you know, make the jokes about this is why we don't have women in the men's game, blah 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 blah, which is again, it's a shame. And I don't think personally, one, it allows for women's football in general, not only just like the players but like the representatives like Marie-Louise Eta. I don't think it really shines women's football in the best light. Not to say that the appointment was poor in any way, shape, or form. I think the way that the world has reacted to it is quite poor. Obviously, I'm not trying to be woke and be like people need to be gentler and whatnot, or more gentle and whatnot. I don't think gentler is a word. But it's a shame that for something that we should be truly celebrating as like a really watershed moment, you know, the glass ceiling broken and whatnot, it's unfortunately been hampered by the people who are after Elon's very precious Twitter dollars. And I think it just doesn't allow women's football to be put in the best light, of which in this season, from what I've also seen, it's already quite on the fritz as things stand, because of course backstage, well not backstage but behind the scenes, a lot of clubs have been posting their financial accounts, and it's not looking very good for a lot of the quote-unquote non-top teams, both domestically, depending on where you're listening to this from, and just across the board globally. I mean, of course, you'll have the teams like Arsenal, Manchester United, Manchester City, I would have said Chelsea, but we'll get to that later because it's not looking good for Chelsea either, who are supported massively by their parent clubs. because unfortunately women's football still suffers from a lack of support, both financial and otherwise, across the board, in spite of the very good and somewhat healthy strides that have been taken to try and rectify this. Of course, in the lower leagues in England, you've got the unfortunate story of Wolverhampton Wanderers, where whilst the men's team is suffering, the women's team is not faring that well either. It is an unfortunate scene currently happening within women's football. Barcelona, of course, notoriously big in the women's football space. Obviously featuring the likes of Aitana Bonmati, Alexia Putellas, literally the only women except for Ada Hegerberg to have touched the Women's Ballon d'Or award so far, at least. I still think last year's decision to not give Caldente the honor was an injustice, but wounds heal, but scars never fade. Barcelona, they've massively cut down on their women's team financially wise. Of course, I'm not sure if you recall, but during the transfer window, the summer transfer window that went by for this season, there was a lot of talk about Barcelona just being left in the heat by their parent club. Of course, that being Joan Laporte and his gang. They left the women out to dry, and fair play to the women's team for not only maintaining their standards and maintaining a lot of their very key players, but still managing to keep it up, not only domestically but even in the Champions League. But it obviously doesn't fare well in the future, in just the longer future a little bit, because one would assume that eventually these issues and these situations are going to catch up with the team eventually, and you'd hope that it doesn't happen. I hope it won't happen, but as things currently stand, it's definitely going to happen, and that's unfortunate. It shouldn't. It shouldn't be happening, but it's going to be happening, and it's okay. You just hope that cooler heads prevail. Those in charge realize the things that they're doing and make a switch. But unfortunately, this is the current state of women's football within the confines of domestic football, at the very least. And you just hope for things to just start taking a drastic change. I'm not saying all of a sudden the next day the people in charge, they wake up and be like, oh my goodness, we've made such a huge mistake, we need to do this, we need to do that. No, but it doesn't hurt to just do the right thing. But sometimes, unfortunately, common sense is not so common, and this is unfortunately where a lot of suffering happens. And unfortunately, at least for me, as things currently stand, it doesn't seem like things are going to happen the right way that they're going to happen, at least so far within the confines of the financials. And then, of course, just circling back to Union Berlin and Louise Eta and her situation, I think the other thing that was a little bit worrying was the news that regardless of what happens, whether Union go on an unbeaten run where they sweep the rest of their games and whatnot, under the tutelage of Marie-Louise Eta, Union Berlin president Dirk Zingler has said that it doesn't matter. She's going straight to the women's team next season. And again, I'm sure he means well by that. Maybe they're planning long term to have her take the reins off the women's team. But again, it doesn't hit well, and it doesn't sit well with a lot of people. Me particularly, because I'm just there saying okay, you're clearly putting a ceiling on her, and the aspirations that she can have within the confines of this club. And you're effectively sending out a message that indeed women don't belong in the men's game, which I don't know. I mean, it doesn't take a genius to tell you that that's a bad idea, but you know, who am I? I'm just a random guy from Africa, just giving his 2 cents on women's football. So I'm already at quite a little bit of a disadvantage, but personally, I don't think it really does the best to just justify or to show that you really care about women's football. And I think statements like that just really show that not only is there a lot of work to be done to give more support to women's football, but a lot of work needs to be done to just validate the contributions that women can have in football in general. Because unfortunately we do have situations where I'm going to be honest here, some representatives within women's football, not women's football, but just some women in the game, they don't really do a good job of representing themselves and women in the game in general. Obviously, people are going to think of Eni Aluko, of course, but for me, it comes down to the incident that happened last week with Declan Rice of Arsenal, where he was asked by one of the female presenters for, I think it was TNT Sports. She just went at him saying like, "Oh hey, what do you think about this? What do you think about this?" And me personally, I don't know what her name was, but I'll put up a clip if YouTube allows me to. It should allow me to, but I feel like the manner in which she went about like asking the questions and the content of the questions themselves, unfortunately, because she's female, you're definitely gonna get people like, "This is why women shouldn't be in the game, blah blah blah." And from my point of view, I understand that she's just most likely asking questions that have been cleared by her producers and her bosses upstairs, and she's just doing her job. But you know, at the same time, unfortunately, it's not going to be a good look. People are going to go for the sexist weaponry to just justify why, quote unquote, women should not be in football in general.
How frustrating was tonight?
Frustrating? Nah, we just got to a semi-final, no frustration.
Massive game Sunday at Manchester City. Do you need to win it?
Yeah, of course, you have to win every game.
And it's a shame. It's a real shame, because me personally, I think that women's football is just really awesome. Like, it's really fun to watch. It's really fun to just see the true passion that comes from the fans who support their respective teams there. You know, there's no moaning, whinging, and like trolling that we see in the men's game that just gets so toxic. And, you know, you just want everything to do with women's football and like its other extending branches to just always be like a shining beacon of just like positivity and just like good energy. But unfortunately, maybe it's a bit utopian that I'm thinking of in this way, but I don't see what's stopping us from having that kind of a reality where women in football and women's football become undeniable. And I think if they become undeniable, you know, it's really hard to ignore just how good it is. But that's neither here nor there. Again, this is just my own 2 cents. Realistically speaking, I would really love to engage with what you guys think about all of this, because some of it has just not been sitting well with me personally. Some of you may think this is a vent session, but this is just me just giving my 2 cents on it, because some parity is needed at some point in time. Unfortunately, the big voices within football in general won't speak on it, and it's a shame that they won't speak on it. But you know, for those who speak on it, like the really wonderful Tom J. Gary, I'm just giving him a shout out, like, because he's just really that good. I think he needs to get his flowers personally. If you ever have time, he works for The Guardian, just go and read any and all of his articles on women's football. They are sublime in my view. I think he's one of the best around. Of course, there's also the likes of Megan Faringa at The Athletic. She's also quite good, but I think Tom is just on another level, and that's nothing to do with his gender before somebody makes the joke. Nothing to do with that. But anyway, glazing to one side. I think women's football just is in a current state where I think it's somewhat suffering from trying to catch up to the men's game, and I think maybe, just maybe, a little introspection is needed to rethink what direction it can actually take. Because apart from the things that I've mentioned and basically complained about, you've got a situation where already a multi-club ownership model is pretty much manifest now in women's football. Of course, I'm referring to Michelle Kang, because she owns Olympique Lyon, well, I guess OL Lyon, OL Lyon, which used to be Olympique Lyonnais, the women's team at least, before they got snipped in half and got exodused by Kang into its own entity. She also owns London City Lionesses, who are currently in WSL and look pretty much set to stave off relegation at the expense of Leicester City. And that's an entirely tragic story on its own, the Leicester City, that is. And of course, the Washington Spirit. Kang is already operating the first multi-club ownership model in women's football, and there were ramblings a while back that she was looking to expand her empire into Spain. And a while back I did make a video like praising this approach, because I was like, yeah, this is what women's football needs. If Kang can show that it's profitable and viable financially speaking, then surely more investors will start looking into the game a little bit more. But I think that video's aged a little bit quite like milk, at least some of the talking points within it, because now I think one thing that I was always thinking about to make a video on, but I'll just add it here now, is Kang's donation to FIFA through her company Kiniska, I think that's how it's pronounced, in being a presenting partner of the first FIFA Women's Champions Cup, the one which Arsenal won recently, which, by the way, nobody made barely a whimper or a peep about. Not Fabrizio Romano, not these other aggregator accounts. I'm not saying it as an Arsenal fan, but it's all of a sudden, because it's its own thing, they don't want to talk about it. But when a woman steps into the game, that's where all the dollars are. But I digress. To each their own. And I'm definitely not trying to sound bitter. That's not the point. Anyway, to Kang, she made a donation, and yes, whilst on the surface none of her teams, particularly OL, were involved in this inaugural tournament, but at the same time, if, for example, let's just say the most famous example we have right now is the City Football Group. Let's say, for argument's sake, the City Football Group, whoever is like technically in charge, I'm not talking about Mansour here, but even if you want to say Mansour, sure, let's say Sheikh Mansour. Let's say he makes a donation to FIFA for, let's just say, the Under 15s Club World Cup that Man City are not in. Everybody would look up and be like, I don't know, bro, seems sus to me. But the same is not being done for Kang, and it's not necessarily to say Kang is a problem, but I think it's more of an indictment on FIFA for accepting this thing, because you're trying to use some gray areas to justify taking up this donation, in doing something that you should really be spearheading, especially since it's your competition, but you're not. So you just end up wondering, okay, what's the point? What are you trying to achieve by doing all of these things? And yeah, again, it just leaves a bitter, sour taste in the mouth because neither party involved in this transaction is necessarily clean. Obviously, Kang will come off with some good PR because arguably she's the biggest figurehead in terms of just like pushing to revolutionize women's football. But at the same time, these kinds of moves make you think that if she keeps on going like this and she doesn't get checked at some point, it might be curtains for women's football on a global scale, especially if Kang continues the way she's going. But for me personally, I'm just like, it's a bit suspicious things are like that. And for us to now be in a situation where we've got an expanding Hydra in the form of Michelle Kang and her ambitions within women's football, obviously now it looks good on paper because you're seeing someone with a lot of money take a big interest in it. But down the line, we've already seen what Manchester City have done to the men's game and the knock-on effects of that with the rise of multi-club ownership across the board. But now I feel like if this happens to women's football, it could just cannibalize the whole thing and just put a stop to it as it currently stands, at least. And that's worrying. That's very worrying, at least to me, because women's football, I think it's in a very awkward space where, again, it's trying to catch up to the men's game. But I feel like it could really be something on its own entirely. I think it's in a very good position to just do its own thing unapologetically and happily. And I don't think people would actually mind all that much. And I think we've got a shining example like the World Sevens football tournament series. I think that thing is awesome. When I first heard about it, I was like, what is this nonsense? But then when I actually sat down and watched the inaugural version, I understood. And I was like, you know what? This thing's got legs. Something like this has legs. Like for the FIFA or EAFC players out there, it's like Volta, but in real life. And I think it's very fun, very pure, very enjoyable. And I think the Sevens tournament format in particular really captures the essence of what women's football can be and what it should be. And that is just happiness, joyfulness, like football at its purest form, where no matter what happens, everybody's just having a good time. Obviously, there's rivalries that'll be there, but I think something like the World Sevens football tournament, I think that's something that women's football can take as an example of the identity that it can or even should base itself upon, just to distinguish it even more from men's football. Because obviously, like I've already said, there's a lot of things that the men's side don't care about, at least from a boardroom perspective. But then at the same time, you're just like, most of them are just having women's teams just to be tokenist about it. Again, if you look at what's happening with Wolverhampton Wanderers, you will see exactly what I'm referring to. But it's a very weird time in women's football. And I hate that it's a very weird time in women's football. Women's football is awesome. Again, I already said it, but genuinely, it's really awesome. When you actually think about how far women's football has come since just the 2023 World Cup, a lot more interest is on it. A lot of legislation is coming through to make it more accessible and more viewable. I mean, as of me recording, there's some pushing in England to get rid of the 3 p.m. blackout, but for women's football. So you can see that there's a lot of interest in the women's game. A lot of people are starting to recognize the women in the team that they support, which is quite cool to see. Obviously, there's not as much like depth in terms of following and tactics and all that like there is in the men's game. At the same time, there's not a lot of representation in public media that's really consumed by people within and around the footballing world, where there's like games like FIFA/EAFC. They could do a better job with their women's mode, quote unquote. Yeah, I play it. Yeah, it's still very horrible a few years later. There could be a lot more that's being done by brands as well to just lift up women's players and teams and athletes, not only when there's a big tournament happening and not only when you're looking to market something, but just in general across the board. I mean, me personally, I'm yet to see like a lot more marketing surrounding like the World Cup, where like the women are there repping the colors of their respective nations, even though it's the men's World Cup. That would be nice in my personal point of view. Like, I've not seen it. Maybe it's there and I'm just blind, or I'm just, so closed up that the world's just passing me by. Who knows? But small things like that, they go a long way. And hopefully in time, I think we can learn from this and get a lot more out of it, with relation to women's football, because I think there's a lot that can still be done, and it'll be nice if it can be done, especially if things go the way they're supposed to go, especially that we're entering a World Cup season. There will definitely be more eyes on women's football. More people will definitely be interested in seeing what's going to happen in the 2027 World Cup in Brazil, because the 2023 World Cup was just such a banger that I'm sure a lot more people are going to be interested in it. And you just hope that all of these things just get another little fresh injection of energy and life into it once we enter this World Cup season. But yeah, here's to hoping. Anyway, this video is already quite long enough as it is. If you manage to stick around to the end and listen to me ramble, feel free to call me out on just how dumb or how stupid my points of discussion have been, how my thoughts are. If you don't agree with them, if you think they're worthwhile and things that I've said are worthwhile, of course, again, let me know. It'll be very nice to hear from you and hear your feedback and your own thoughts about where you think women's football currently is, and if you think that's a good thing or a bad thing, what can be done to change that around. I'm planning on doing a little bit more videos, especially towards the end of the season, not only covering results, but also just discussing other things that are interesting. I already touched on it before, but Wolves, I think, are an interesting story to touch on about Chelsea and their just seemingly very steep downfall are another interesting thing to talk about, and many other stories. That even just the situation with Barcelona Femeni right now, I think that would also be nice to talk about as well. But anyway, thank you so much for listening. Sorry for rambling. Hopefully my voice came out well. Sorry for all the ums and ahs and blah blah blah. The little filler. There it is again. It's good to be back. It's very good to be back, and I hope I can continue to be back, not only as the season ends, but even during the off season. Look at me sounding like an American. And even going into next season, especially with the World Cup next year. I genuinely cannot wait to cover all of that. I think it's going to be awesome. But anyway, take care of yourselves. Have a very nice day, and I'll see you in the next one.